Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amanda Matthews, and I'm the Marketing Coordinator here at AdvisoCon. And I'd like to welcome you all to today's webinar, How to Use OneNote for Team Collaboration. Here at AdvisoCon, we are a group of authors, teachers, consultants, and technologists who are passionate about helping organizations learn, scale, and grow with a mix of methodology and technology to deliver results. Recently, AdvisoCon has stepped into a new area using project management for community involvement by integrating a nonprofit and community outreach department. For more information, you can visit our website at www.advisocon.com. We offer free bi-weekly webinars that we refer to as Webinar Wednesdays, in which we spend 30 minutes to an hour teaching topics ranging from Microsoft Project, Project Server, Project Online, Power BI, Visio, SharePoint, to project program and portfolio management and methodology approaches. With attending any of our training sessions, we offer PDUs as we are a registered education provider with the Project Management Institute. At the close of today's session, I will give some instructions on how to claim your PDUs and how to contact us for any questions you may have. So now, before we get started, I'll just go over a few things so you know how to participate in today's event. This webinar will be recorded and uploaded to the AdvisoCon YouTube channel for those of you who could not attend today's session live. Please note that any questions or comments submitted will not display in the recording, nor will any of your personal information be shared. Please review the control menu that should be on the top right of your screen. This control panel gives you the option to adjust volume and most of your other settings. The audience will be muted during this session, so in order to ask questions, you will need to submit text questions in the chat window of the control panel. It is now my pleasure to introduce Ken Lowen, our Director of Client Solutions here at AdvisoCon. So without further ado, I will hand this presentation over so we can get this webinar started.
Thanks very much, Amanda. And hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us for today's webinar. I'm really excited to present OneNote to you, as it's been a tool that I've really valued highly for a number of years. Hopefully, this is something that is that you're already using, and I'm going to give you some new features, a couple of aha moments. But if not, if you've not used OneNote, I hope that I can show you a tool that will really expand the capabilities in your toolkit. Our agenda today, we're going to talk a little bit about how you can get OneNote, what the licensing models are, talk a little bit about some news developments. I'm going to make sure that we get into OneNote and do a tour and show you some of my favorite features. And we're going to talk specifically about project management use cases and best practices for working with Microsoft OneNote. And now let's put our PowerPoint skills on pause, and surprise, surprise, I'm going to drag across OneNote. Because in planning today's webinar, I actually used our tool OneNote to organize my thoughts around the content, and I'm going to be using this as a reference for delivery of content today. So let's talk about our why OneNote here. And for one thing, we can collaborate with anyone using OneNote. There are free versions of OneNote available for all major platforms, from smartphones to tablets to PCs to working with your Mac or iPad. If we use OneNote, it helps us to ensure that there's one version of the truth. If we're all working on a single central notebook on a particular topic, then we don't have islands of information existing out on somebody else's email or on their hard drive and that we don't have access to. So every Office 365 version except for Office 365 Business Essentials has OneNote in it. And Office 365 Business Essentials is characterized as, I need email, but I don't include the rest of the Office applications. So it's a very targeted use case. OneNote is free in Windows 10, and it's free on an iPad, on an iPhone, and on Android devices. Some recent news, Microsoft announced that OneNote for Windows 10 is going to become the only version for the PC platform. So what I'm showing you on my screen right now is OneNote, the desktop application, and that desktop application will be going away after a while. We see Microsoft already bringing the two versions into feature parity so that you'll be able to smoothly transition from the desktop application if you're using it to OneNote for Windows 10 as a web application or an application installed in Windows 10. Let's take a look at some of the key features that we use in OneNote. First of all, organization. So when I look over at the left side of my OneNote screen here, I see that I have a series of notebooks that are identified by the notebook icon. And so I've got my primary work notebook labeled Advisicon, and then I have notebooks that are identified as other things. So different client work, as an example, I could have a personal notebook in here. I could have notebooks that my colleagues have shared with me. Within those notebooks, we then see that we have groups of dividers. And so think of the tabs that you added into a ring binder when you were using ring binders for school. I remember when I first started working at Microsoft years ago and was first introduced to OneNote, it replaced a spiral bound notebook that I really wasn't making great use of because it had a fixed number of pages in between each divider for this lab notebook. And so when I got done with the project, if I had leftover pages, I either had to put a second tab in there using a Post-it or something like that, or I was ripping pages out and ending up with all that fluff all over the office from ripping out spiral bound pages. So this is something that's infinitely flexible. You'll see that in the training section that I have expanded right here, I've got 3 section tabs labeled Power BI, OneNote, and Drawing Practice. And so up on the top, I'm in the OneNote section. Let's step back a little bit, and we see over here on the right side then that in this section I have a series of individual pages, and the individual pages are automatically headed with the heading that I have on that page so that I don't have to set it up manually. When I go to another tab here, features available only in OneNote for Windows 10. So I went out to the web and did a quick search on what features are available only in OneNote for Windows 10. So this is the application that we're moving toward. So we can see that there are unique features available in Windows 10 that don't exist in the desktop application. So if you're looking for this information and find that it's of value, you may migrate over to the OneNote for Windows 10 application automatically. By default, the settings in OneNote pasted in the URL from which that information was obtained, so that I can click on that URL, go back and see if the article has been updated since I got that. When I updated this information, I also looked at what were the features that are currently available only in the desktop app. And so there was a very small number of tasks, and those are reducing automatically. One of the things that I do want to point out to you is this user voice. All of the Office 365 applications have got a user voice that you can search for. The Microsoft development teams rely heavily on user voice to obtain input and feedback from those of us out in the partner and user communities as to how do we like the features, what do we find works well or doesn't work well, and also what are the improvements that we'd like to see made to the individual applications. We can also vote on suggestions that have been made by others already so that the team can recognize the priority that we put onto a particular enhancement. Also want you to know that in the backstage view, so like other applications, when we click on File, we get the backstage view here. And in the left-hand nav, there is an item right here for feedback. The Microsoft team relies heavily on both user voice and feedback. And so if you find something here that you really like or that you don't like, it's real easy to come in here and send that feedback off to Microsoft. I know for a fact that the various software development teams rely heavily on the input that they get from the feedback and from user voice. So you can consider sending that feedback in something that is valuable. We can tag information in our documents, in our OneNote notebooks. We can go quickly to our to-do tag that is up in our toolbar up here at the top of the screen. We also can click on the drop down here and look at the other tags that are set up by default, and you'll see that there's a large number of them. And we also have the ability to customize them in ways that help us. So if I've got a couple of projects, I can be tagging things to individual projects. But what I tend to do for projects is I use an individual notebook for each project. And so tagging by project is not something I find use of, but I did tweak these for up here. I've got somebody being present at a meeting. I've got to-dos, and you'll see how some of those apply. We can paste in mixed media, so we can add in videos, we can add in spreadsheets, Visio diagrams, pictures that we've sourced from our emails or on our laptop, screen clippings from other applications, links. We can also record audio and video from the meetings that we're conducting here and embed those right into our OneNote document right along with the meeting minutes if we want to. Okay, sharing. Sharing's real easy. When I go backstage over here, I've got a couple of different options to share. I'm going to start with send. Send allows you to quickly email. This is the one I use most frequently. I'll email a page from OneNote to another AdvisorCon employee or to one of my clients. If I look at share, if you, like me, are working more and more in the Office 365 collaboration environment, you're finding that the applications are prompting you to share documents by providing users read-only or read-write links to them so that you're not actually having to attach them into an email, creating a separate copy of it and sending that separate copy off to somebody. You can now share the notes with either everybody in the meeting or with individual people so that you're, again, keeping to one version of the truth and you're pointing them towards the information that is the latest and greatest. So sharing. Let's take a look at some of our OneNote features and tour, or at some of our project management use cases. So thinking about these, we've got task-centric or phase-centric approaches to working with our OneNote notebook. So we might set, as I have, a OneNote notebook up to represent an entire project, and then we can set our tabs up to represent phases in the project, or if we've got key tasks that we're responsible for, maybe that is what's represented by either tabs or tab groups. Obviously, collaboration. We want to allow all of the members of our team who need to have access to the notebook about this project. Let's take a look at a couple of examples of that. So for our various projects, I've set up a notebook here that represents the individual project. That is, in my case, an out-of-the-box feature in Project Online. So I've dragged across the project site in SharePoint for one of the projects in my Project Online environment. And you'll see that up here near the top of the Quick Launch menu, by default out of the box is Notebook. And that represents the OneNote notebook for the identity integration project. So by clicking on that link, I can come directly over to that notebook. You'll see that I've set up the default tab in this section labeled meeting notes to be a meeting notes template. I've set up another tab for requirements and another tab for status reports. I can do a lot of the editing that I want to in this OneNote online environment. If I find something that I want to do that I can't, I can just click on this item in the menu and it'll open in OneNote Desktop. And so if you watch here in OneNote Desktop, we've been taken back automatically by having clicked on that. And my Demo 1 notebook is the name of the notebook, the template that's being used in the identity integration project. I've got my meeting notes tab, I've got my requirements tab, I've got my status reports tab. And you'll notice that requirements is using a template, as is the meeting notes. When I add another page into this requirements, I can just go over to add page, add additional documents as I want to. I can also come up onto my ribbon and select page templates, and I can add a page from the many templates, that are available in OneNote, or I can come back over to the template that's here, and I can choose down here at the very bottom of the screen to save this page as the default template that I want to use in this particular section of my notebook, or I can pick another one that I want to have as my default. So best practices here, think about when you want to use templates and use your templates over and over again. When I have set a template in this particular one, you can see down at the lower right that it says meeting notes advisicon my templates is the template it's going to use. So when I add another page, the new page is based on my template. And it comes up showing when it was created in terms of date and time, and it's all ready for me to add information in relating to the various meetings. A related opportunity is when I'm in an Outlook meeting and I am starting up the meeting, I can right click on the appointment, select meeting notes from the context sensitive menu right there, and create a new set of meeting notes for this particular meeting. And so meeting notes then asks me where I want it, and it creates a meeting note right here, which has got the title of the meeting on it, the date and time of the meeting, as well as who all has been invited to this meeting. So it's very, very quick to create a meeting note page out of an appointment that you've got set up. Let's go back over to our outline. So we're talking about our project meeting notes. We talked about how OneNote notebooks are an out-of-the-box feature in our project online project sites, so that we've got a very simple tool to use for collaboration while we're working on our enterprise project management platform. We started at this looking at our project notebook and the standard format of having a notebook that contains an identifiable set of content. In my case, I use them for projects. Sections within those. So my advisicon notebook is made up of information relating to client projects, to sales opportunities, to reference material relating to the various classes I teach. And you saw that those are organized for OneNote, for Power BI, for Microsoft Project. So it's easy for me to work with that. Another easy capability is the idea that I can search very, very powerfully. So let me type in Power BI. And so when I type Power BI in my search, I have here some recent picks that I went to. Here are some that have Power BI in the title. So I've got a Power BI notebook in internal, and I've got Power BI notebooks in clients and other places, as well as I've got topics that relate to my, or titles that relate to an individual document, so that I could choose to go to a particular page, I find what it says, and then I can quickly return back to where I was in my OneNote notebook. So, best practices in working with OneNote in the project environment. Share your notebooks. Either put them into an environment where others can get to them routinely. So if you're working with Microsoft Teams, as we are here at AdvisaCon, each team environment can have a OneNote notebook. If you're working with Project Online, each Project Online SharePoint site can have a project notebook. And then your Office 365 groups can also have OneNote notebooks. Then you as a user have got your own OneNote notebook. So you want to come up with an identifiable plan for how you're going to be using your OneNote notebooks so that your colleagues know what your one source of truth is. Outlook meetings. Create those meeting notes directly from the Outlook appointment as you start your meeting. Plan that you've got your agenda typed into the appointment in Outlook, and then it'll be populated into your OneNote meeting notes. Templates. Set up templates for the various places where they make sense in your notebooks. Meeting notes where you always have a consistent template will be set up much more quickly. You can then start into a meeting, take notes as you walk your way through the agenda, and when you're done with the meeting, you can either just close them into a shared environment so that all of your meeting attendees automatically have access to them, or you can share them by either sending or creating a share. Either way, you're not coming out of every meeting needing to spend time documenting, cleaning up, and then distributing your meeting notes as a separate artifact of the project. Look at them in terms of your requirements gathering documents. We use templates for collecting requirements. Why not put those into a OneNote notebook so that, again, they're all collected into a location for one source of truth? Add the OneNote app to your Microsoft Teams team and collaborate across the team. I'm going to pause for a moment, Amanda, and see if we've got any questions.
It looks like we do.
Great.
Let's take this first one. It says, I'm using both Windows 8 OneNote app and the OneNote 2013 desktop version on my computer. How do I get the OneNote files to open in the version I want?
What I'm finding in working with applications that come in multiple versions is that typically the latest one you've installed on your machine will be the one that will open by default when you click on a notebook or in terms of Power BI, a Power BI design file. Another way to do that, if you want to always predict, is first open the application that you want to use, whether it's OneNote 2013 on the desktop as you described, or OneNote for the web, and go from there. Thanks for the question, that was great. Another question, Amanda?
Yeah, this one says, can I open notebooks from multiple OneDrive accounts?
You can open notebooks from multiple OneDrive accounts. When I am looking at my multiple notebooks, you're not seeing in my window notebooks from multiple accounts, but I have had them from multiple accounts in here, and OneNote will do just fine at caching your credentials there. That's a great question. So yeah, I have routinely had either a personal notebook in here that uses my personal email account, my personal Office 365 account as a credential. I have OneNote notebooks that I use in various client environments that are tied to my user account that the client has set up for me. And then I've got my multiple notebooks across the AdvisoCon, Office 365, Teams, Project Online environments? Great questions, thank you. Other questions? If you'll put them in the questions pane, I've got a couple of moments to address a few more. I think I see a hand raised. Okay. I guess if there aren't more questions, I will hand it back to you, Amanda.
Oh, just one last one. The hand
Oh, is there?
raiser entered it.
Okay.
It says, do you integrate OneNote with other Windows apps?
Like
Outlook or
or
web
web?
apps?
Okay. Well, as I showed you, OneNote is already integrated with OneNote in that you can create a OneNote meeting notes from an appointment in Outlook. We have it deeply integrated into Teams, to Office 365 groups, into our SharePoint sites. I think most other Office applications integrate in the opposite direction. So as you see on my screen here, you can integrate Excel spreadsheets, Visio diagrams into your OneNote. So I think in those cases, OneNote sort of stands in the middle between the places where you want to put the notes and the content that you want to share in that notebook. So thanks for that.
And there's a follow-up here. It says, what about task assignment?
Okay, so task assignments, we can tag things as tasks. And so if I tag a task right here and say, this is going to be an Outlook task for today, then I can open the task in Outlook on the same menu. And this is what that looks like in Outlook. So I've got a link to the OneNote notebook right here so that I can go find whatever related information I've got there. And this task is going to appear on my Tasks view in Outlook. I can use the standard Outlook status here as necessary. So thanks for that question. That's a great one.
And I think we just have time for this one last question. If you guys still want to submit them, though, we will follow up with you after the webinar. So this final one says, how do you integrate OneNote into SharePoint?
How do we integrate OneNote into SharePoint? So there are probably numerous ways to do it, but what I've got that I demonstrated in our project site, let's see if in this one here, is in my SharePoint site for this particular identity integration project in Project Online. We have a OneNote notebook that is appearing right there on the quick launch menu at the left. This notebook is tied to this particular project, so security for this is driven by the project security. And it's just as simple as this to come over to OneNote and edit content that relates to this particular project. This OneNote notebook was created using a template. So the idea that it has a meeting notes section, a requirements section, and a status reports section was baked into it when we created the new project and created its SharePoint site. We created that OneNote notebook with that information. Excuse me. And again, that notebook then, once I chose to open it in OneNote, appeared right here in my OneNote 2016 application. So that when I'm routinely working in OneNote, I can come in here, I can add, edit, and read notes that appear in this notebook without having to separately go into Project Online and then into the project and then into the SharePoint site. This is very similar to the way that I use my file navigator and will navigate in here to various group sites in Office 365 Teams or to project sites in the various Project Online projects, so that my workflow in Word, Excel, OneNote, Visio, PowerPoint is that I use the applications normally, and I'm not having to separately migrate or upload or download content out of those various project sites in order to work with them. It's really seamless, and I really hope that you've gotten some great suggestions and tips here. I look forward to hearing that you are working with OneNote a lot more frequently than you were in the past and getting a lot of value from it.
Well, that's great. It's all the time we've got. So thank you everyone for attending today's webinar, How to Use OneNote for Team Collaboration. We welcome your questions, suggestions, and feedback. For more information, you can email us at contact@advisacon.com. Once you exit today's webinar, you will receive a survey on the presentation. You'll need to complete and submit this survey in order to receive your PDUs. From there, you will receive a follow-up email within 2 business days with your PDU information. If you're watching this recording on YouTube or another social media platform, please be sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future uploads. So on behalf of AdvisaCon, Ken, and myself, thank you for joining us today, and we hope to see you participate in future webinars. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.